Roughly 30% of all beef sold in Australia is mince. Yet EFSA's food recall alerts prove the bright red trays at Woolworths and Coles are gas-flushed, water-weighted scams designed to strip value from millions of trusting Australian families. If you are tired of paying premium meat prices for grey slurry, hit the hype button and share this right now, because every claim ahead is drawn from EFSA's recalls, ACCC records, and federal court findings, not opinion. Number 6. IGA Warwick Meats Premium 4 Star Mince Beef, the foreign matter trap. You shop at IGA because you want to support a local business, avoid the big two, and find something that feels more community-focused than the corporate chains. You see the Warwick Meats Premium 4 Star Mince Beef in the refrigerated section, and the name sounds premium. The packaging looks professional, and the price seems reasonable for a quality product. You assume that a 4-star rating and a premium label means the product has been held to a higher standard than the budget trays at the majors. That's the bait. Here's the hook. In December 2025, Food Standards Australia New Zealand issued an urgent recall for Warwick Meats QLD Premium 4 Star Mince Beef 500 G with a best before date of December 13th, 2025. Because the product contained foreign matter in the form of plastic pieces. The recall was initially issued for Queensland independent retailers, including IGA, then expanded on December 9, 2025, to include New South Wales. According to the FSANZ recall alert, food products containing plastic may cause illness or injury if consumed. The mechanism is straightforward. During industrial processing and packaging, fragments of packaging material, equipment, or handling surfaces can enter the production line, and when the product is ground mince, those fragments are distributed throughout the batch and become nearly impossible to detect visually by the consumer. Here's what that means at dinner. You brown the mince for your family's spaghetti bolognese, and a small piece of hard plastic is now distributed through the sauce, hidden among the meat fibers and sitting on your child's plate. You cannot see it, you cannot smell it, you cannot taste it until it is too late. The financial sting is not just the cost of the mince. It is the emergency dental visit if someone bites down on it, the medical consultation if a child swallows it, and the total loss of trust in a product you specifically chose because it looked safer than the home brand alternative. The packaging and premium label promise a 4-star quality product from a trusted Queensland supplier. But the FSANZ recall data reveals a product that had to be pulled from shelves because industrial contamination reached the consumer. Have you ever bought mince from an IGA or independent store and found something in it that should not have been there? Tell me in the comments right now. Your story is the evidence that proves this is not an isolated factory error. But if you think IGA is the only independent channel with this problem, what comes next will show you that the organic label is no protection either. Number 5. Auspork Free Country Organic Beef Mince at independent retailers. The organic illusion. You choose organic because you believe it means cleaner, safer, more carefully produced food with fewer chemicals and better oversight. You see the Free Country organic beef mince at an independent retailer or super barn in the Australian Capital Territory. And the word organic tells you this product has been held to a higher standard, audited by certifiers, and produced with care. You pay the premium because you want to protect your family from the industrial shortcuts you suspect the big chains are using. That's the bait. Here's the hook. In September 2025, FSANZ issued a recall for Auspork Australia Free Country Organic Beef Mince 500 G with a best before date of September 28, 2025, because the product contained foreign matter in the form of plastic pieces. The product was sold at independent food retailers, including IGA stores across New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, and the Northern Territory, as well as Superbarn in the ACT. The recall notice stated that food products containing plastic pieces may cause illness or injury if consumed. So why does an organic product, which carries the implication of superior quality control and smaller scale production, end up with the exact same contamination risk as mass-market mince? Because the organic certification governs farming practices, not processing line integrity. The mince still goes through the same industrial grinding, packaging, and distribution systems where plastic contamination can occur. Here's what that means at dinner. You paid a premium price for organic beef, perhaps $22 or $24 per kilogram, and the product on your stove is carrying the same risk profile as a budget tray from a discount chain. The financial sting is the premium you paid for a label that did not protect you from the processing reality. The packaging and organic certification promise a cleaner, safer, more carefully produced product. But the FSANZ recall data reveals that organic status on the farm does not guarantee protection from industrial contamination on the processing line. If you have ever paid extra for organic mince and wondered whether it was actually worth the money, I want to know about it below. Comment yes if you have ever felt the organic label let you down. But if you think the independents are the only risk. Number 4 is where the discount model shows its own dirty secret. Number 4, Aldi beef mince, the discount deception. You walk into Aldi and the beef mince price looks almost too good to be true. The trays are stacked high. The packaging is minimal and clean. And you tell yourself that Aldi's European efficiency model means they have cut out the middlemen and passed the savings on to you. You need mince for tacos, for burgers, for a quick family dinner, and the price is $3 or $4 cheaper per kilo than Woolworths or Coles. You assume the product is the same meat, just sold with lower overhead. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Aldi operates on a centralized sourcing model with no in-store butcher, no meat counter staff, and no ability to ask questions about the product you are buying. The mince is pre-packaged, pre-priced, and delivered in bulk to the store. When you get it home and open the tray, the texture can feel unusually soft, almost paste-like, rather than the granular, fibrous texture of properly ground beef from a single source. When you cook it, the mince can release a surprising amount of watery, greyish liquid that pools in the pan before any browning occurs, and the cooked texture can be rubbery and dense rather than crumbly and rich. The Aldi model is built on rapid turnover and minimal staff interaction, which means there is no one to ask about the fat content, the water content, the sourcing, or the age of the product. The financial sting is the slow erosion of value. You think you are saving $3 per kilo. But if the product is carrying excess moisture, lower grade trimmings, or mechanically recovered meat, you are getting less actual beef per dollar than the price suggests. The packaging promises quality beef at unbeatable prices for smart shoppers. But the reality reveals a heavily processed, centrally sourced product where the low price is achieved through processing shortcuts that strip flavor, texture, and honesty from the meat. Have you ever bought Aldi mince and felt the texture was wrong, the cooking was off, or the taste was flat? Drop your experience in the comments right now, because the Aldi bargain story needs to be tested against real kitchen results. But if you think the discount chain is the only one cutting corners, number 3 is where the biggest chain in the country shows its own engineered illusion. Number 3, Woolworths beef mince, the gas flush delusion. You grab the Woolworths home brand beef mince because it is convenient, it is everywhere, and the bright red colour in the tray looks like proof of freshness. You assume that Australia's largest supermarket chain has the scale, the systems, and the regulatory compliance to deliver a product that is at least honest about what it is. You trust the brand because it has been part of Australian shopping for generations. That's the bait. Here's the hook. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, major Australian retailers, including Woolworths, use modified atmosphere packaging, which involves pumping carbon dioxide and oxygen into meat trays to extend shelf life. The article noted that some retailers have used carbon monoxide to artificially maintain the red colour that consumers associate with fresh meat. This practice is banned in the European Union, but permitted in Australia. A 2018 paper published on PubMed by Giannane and Roncalles stated that carbon monoxide has been reported to mask muscle food spoilage by maintaining a bright red colour even as the meat ages past its prime. The Meat Standards Australia trial in 2016 found that MAP-packed beef at 9 days sacrificed 12 MSA tenderness index points across tenderloins, strip loins and rumps, meaning a 5-star eating quality product became a 4-star, and anything below mid-range 3-star became a fail. So, why does no one talk about this? Because the gas is invisible, the colour looks perfect, and the consumer has no way to detect it without laboratory testing. Here's what that means at dinner. You pay $18 or $20 per kilogram for mince that looks fresh, but may be up to 3 weeks old, artificially colored, and significantly degraded in tenderness and flavor. When you cook it, the mince may not brown properly because the myoglobin has been chemically stabilized rather than naturally preserved. The texture can be rubbery and the flavor flat. The financial sting is the deception of paying fresh meat prices for a product that has been sitting in a warehouse, flush with gas, and shipped to your store while the color stays artificially red. The packaging promises fresh, quality Australian beef mince, but the data reveals a product that can be up to 3 weeks old, artificially colored, and degraded in eating quality by the time it reaches your kitchen. Tell me in the comments. Did you know that the bright red color of your supermarket mince might be gas, not freshness? Because most Australians have no idea, and that is exactly how the system wants it. But if you think Woolworths is the only chain using these tricks, number 2 is where the other major player shows its own water problem. Number 2, Coles beef mince, the water pooling trap. You buy Coles beef mince because you need a reliable, affordable protein for the week, and the label says it is 100% Australian beef with no added hormones. You see the Heart Smart options, the lean varieties, and the premium labels, and you assume that a major chain with this much market power would not risk its reputation on a product that was fundamentally misrepresented. You trust the label because you have been told that Australian food standards are among the best in the world. That's the bait. Here's the hook. In 2023, a Coles customer in Australia posted images on social media showing significant water pooling from Coles beef mince during cooking, sparking a heated debate about whether the supermarket was adding water to its product. Coles denied the allegations, and Associate Professor Peter McGilchrist from the University of New England stated that Coles could not be adding water to their mince because it is not allowed and they would not get away with it. However, McGilchrist also pointed out that the mince in question was 17% fat, and of the remaining 83%, about 80% was moisture. This means that a significant portion of what you are paying for by weight is not meat protein, but naturally occurring water and fat content that cooks out into a grey, watery pool. The Reddit community for Australia has discussed this extensively, with users noting that supermarket mince can lose dramatically more weight during cooking than butcher mince, suggesting higher water and fat content than the clean label implies. Here's what that means at dinner. You open a 2-kilogram family pack of Coles mince, brown it for spaghetti, and watch as 300 millilitres of grey, watery liquid pool in the pan before the meat even starts to fry properly. The mince stews instead of sears. The texture becomes pasty and grainy rather than rich and crumbly. The flavour is diluted and flat. The financial sting is that you are paying meat prices for a product where a substantial percentage of the weight is moisture that cooks away, leaving you with significantly less actual meat than the label weight suggested. The packaging promises 100% Australian beef, lean options, and Heart Smart quality. But the reality reveals a product where the moisture and fat content can turn your dinner into a watery stew, and where the weight on the label is not the weight of meat you will actually eat. If you have ever bought Coles mince and watched it flood the pan with water, comment the word yes below. Your experience is the proof that the labels are not telling the whole story. But if you think the big two are the only problem, number 1 is where the whole system comes together in one engineered deception. Now, stop for a second, because before we get to the worst offender, you need 90 seconds on the system itself, because this is the part that makes every single ranking on this list suddenly make sense. The Australian supermarket beef mince supply chain is built around 3 structural tricks that are legal, widespread, and deliberately opaque. The first is modified atmosphere packaging, where carbon dioxide, oxygen, and sometimes carbon monoxide are pumped into the tray to extend shelf life and maintain a bright red color that signals freshness even when the meat is up to 3 weeks old. The second is the moisture and fat content game, where mince is ground from trimmings and offcuts with highly variable fat and water percentages, and the label may state a fat percentage that is not rigorously enforced at the retail level. leaving you paying for water and fat at meat prices. The third is the centralized processing model, where mince from multiple sources, multiple abattoirs, and multiple states is blended together in enormous batches, packaged in distant facilities, and shipped to stores with no local butcher to verify quality, answer questions, or take responsibility. These three mechanisms together create a system where the mince in your tray is not a single product from a single source, but a composite commodity engineered for shelf life, visual appeal, and profit margin, with the consumer left to absorb the loss in quality, nutrition, and value. Number 1. The premium label mince system across all supermarkets. The engineered weight scam. You stand at the mince section and see labels like premium, 4-star, heart smart, and lean, and you pay extra because you want to feed your family better meat, leaner nutrition, and a healthier dinner. You trust the percentage on the label because why would a major supermarket chain risk misleading you about something as basic as fat content or quality grade? You assume that a 4-star rating or a premium label means the product has been independently verified and held to a higher standard. That's the bait. Here's the hook. According to a YouTube investigation comparing supermarket mince to butcher mince, beef mince labeled 3 to 5% fat has repeatedly tested above 9% fat with no regulatory penalty, no public correction, and no refund for the millions of Australians who paid premium prices for a product that did not match its own label. The mechanism is that mince is one of the most profitable, most processed, and least transparent products in the meat section. It is ground from trimmings, offcuts, and mixed sauces, then labelled with a fat percentage and a star rating that is not rigorously tested at the retail level, and sold to health-conscious families who are actively trying to make better choices. The texture of the cooked mince can be grainy, greasy, and oily, rather than clean and crumbly. The mouthfeel is pasty and cloying, rather than rich and meaty. The fat pools in the pan in a way that does not match the lean percentage you thought you bought. Here's what that means at dinner. You pay 20% more for premium mince that is actually standard fat content, and you watch it cook down into a greasy, watery slurry that bears no resemblance to the lean, healthy product you believed you were buying. The financial sting is direct. If you pay $20 per kilogram for premium lean mince that is actually 9% fat or higher, you are being overcharged for a fiction. Across a year of weekly family shopping, that premium overcharge can add up to hundreds of dollars paid for a label that lied about what was inside. The marketing promises lean, healthy, premium quality mince for your family. But the testing data reveals a product where the fat content can be nearly double the label claim, and where the premium price is a premium you pay for a fiction. Have you noticed this with your own premium mince? Tell me in the comments. If this has happened to you, I want to know about it below. And here is the question that splits this audience. Do you think Woolworths or Coles deserves to be called out harder for the systemic mislabeling of mince fat content? Tell me down in the comments. First, buy from an independent butcher who grinds mince fresh daily. This is structurally different because an independent butcher buys whole carcasses or primal cuts, grinds mince to order in front of you, and has a direct reputation stake in every single transaction. According to the same YouTube investigation that tested supermarket mince, butcher mince lost only 90 grams of weight during cooking compared to 290 grams from supermarket mince, proving that the butcher product carried significantly less water and more actual meat per kilogram. The practical reason it deserves your money is that you are paying for meat, not water, not gas flush shelf life, and not a misleading label. You can ask the butcher which cut they are grinding, you can watch them do it, and you can verify the fat content before you pay. Second, buy whole cuts directly from a farmer's market or a verified local producer. This is structurally different because you are cutting out the entire centralized warehouse system and buying beef that has been aged, cut, and sold by the same people who raised the animal or processed it locally. According to Meat Standards Australia data, locally sourced beef that bypasses the MAP packaging system retains significantly more natural tenderness and flavour because it has not been subjected to extended warehouse storage and gas flushing. The practical reason it deserves your money is that the price per kilogram of actual meat is often lower than the supermarket equivalent once you account for the water loss, the fat mislabeling, and the quality degradation that comes with industrial processing. If you take away one single practical thing from this entire video, take this. When you are standing in front of the mince section at any supermarket, do not look at the color. Do not look at the price. Do not look at the star rating. Look at the label for 3 specific things. First, check whether the mince is labeled as moisture infused or contains added water. If it says moisture infused, put it back. That is a product that has been deliberately treated with brine to increase weight and extend shelf life, and you are paying meat prices for injected liquid. Second, check the fat percentage and understand that this number is not independently verified at the retail level. If the label says 5% fat, but the mince looks visibly fatty or feels soft and greasy, trust your eyes and your hands over the label. Third, press your thumb into the meat through the plastic. If it feels unnaturally wet, spongy, and leaves a watery residue on the tray, you are not holding fresh mince. You are holding a product that has been engineered to look fresh while carrying excess moisture that will cook away and leave you with less meat than you paid for. If you can, buy 1 tray of supermarket mince and 1 tray of butcher mince this week. Cook them side by side in identical pans and measure the liquid that comes out of each. The difference will tell you everything you need to know about what you have been paying for. You came here to find out which supermarket mince to avoid. You are leaving knowing how to read any mince label in any store and instantly determine whether it is worth your money or engineered to deceive you. That skill is more valuable than any single ranking because it protects you for life, not just for this week's shopping trip. You're no longer vulnerable to the gas-flushed color trick, the water weight scam, or the premium label fiction, because you now understand exactly how each one works and why it exists. This week, I want you to check the mince in your fridge right now. Look at the label, check for moisture infused, check the fat percentage, and ask yourself whether the last time you cooked it, the pan filled with water before it filled with flavor. Then come back and tell me in the comments what you found. Tell me down in the comments which supermarket mince genuinely surprised you the most, and whether you think Woolworths or Coles deserves to be called out harder for the systemic mislabeling of mince fat content.